What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 6 of the Attachment Confessions. We've got a good one today. And just FYI, I've been under the weather lately, so if my voice sounds a little off, now you know why. For those of you that are new to the Attachment Confessions, my name is Chelsea, and I am super stoked that you decided to tune in. From the moment that I discovered attachment science, legitimately everything about every relationship I had ever been in finally made sense. And now I'm figuring out what it takes to earn my attachment security and have healthy, secure relationships moving forward. On the Attachment Confessions, we'll be diving into all things attachment science while you join me on my attachment healing journey. My hope is that by sharing my story, even some of my own red flag moments, hashtag episode 3, you will also be inspired to embark on your own attachment healing journey. On last week's episode, we took things way back to 1970 and did a deeper dive into one of the first MVPs of attachment theory, Mary Ainsworth. Her strange situation experiment overwhelmingly confirmed just how early attachment forms in infants, which then goes on to shape how they handle emotional intimacy and conflict in their adult relationships. Mary's groundbreaking discoveries showcase why doing our absolute best to foster secure attachment in our children from day one is so crucial. If you have kids, regardless of their age, or if you one day hope to have kids, or if you have nieces and nephews, or if you have friends that have kids, or shoot, if you've ever been a kid yourself. Really, if you have any exposure to kids in any way, shape, or form, that episode is so eye-opening and super beneficial to understanding attachment science. So, go check it out if you haven't yet. On today's episode, we're going to be exploring a topic that I've been asked a number of questions about since starting this podcast: breakups. Guys, breakups are literally the worst, and we all handle them in ways that are pretty shockingly similar and predictable depending on our attachment styles. So, put on your sweatpants, grab a pint of Ben and Jerry's, and let's chat about how each attachment style handles going splitsville with their significant others. Breakups are an emotional roller coaster. They're a loss that we grieve. They aren't just emotional torture, they are physically excruciating. The science behind how breakups affect us psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and even biologically is wild. They do quite a number on our nervous systems. It's like a part of us has died. The companion we did life with, revolved almost everything around, no longer there. The daily routines, especially the little things like those "good morning, beautiful," or midday check ins, or "I love you, good night" texts that we became so accustomed to and probably took for granted, no more. The memories we created with that person now leave us almost wondering if any of it was even real. The future we once felt so certain about, gone. And sometimes for the better, right? But whether or not the breakup was what needed to happen to find our peace or to move on to the next necessary chapter in our lives, they are still so agonizingly brutal. Breakups are one of the worst things that we experience as humans, in my personal opinion, and I'm sure many of you would also agree. We hear all sorts of unsolicited advice after a breakup, some that's helpful, and plenty that most certainly is not. I'm looking at you, the person that always manages to throw out the classic, "best way to get over someone is to get under somebody else." First off, just stop. And second off, there's actual science that totally goes against that. Not just because it's gross, but there's plenty of scientific evidence to show that it's not effective at all for getting over your ex, and actually is worse for your emotional and psychological well being. Not to mention, having countless notches on your bedpost really is not attractive or impressive. But I digress. Regardless of what your friends, or your family, or your coworkers, or what social media says, it is actually our attachment style that profoundly influences how we handle breakups. The emotional experience post breakup is not linear. Since we are literally grieving the loss of a relationship, we experience the same 5 stages of grief that we experience when there is an actual death: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Depending on what your attachment style is, will determine the typical order, timeline, and duration in which you will experience each of these stages. Let's start with our anxious preoccupieds. As you'll recall, our AP's main attachment wound is the fear of abandonment due to the intermittent reinforcement of emotional and physical attunement they experienced as a child. Due to this, they crave closeness in relationships. This causes them to oftentimes become overly dependent on their partners for reassurance and have difficulty handling conflict in their relationships. They're the ones that are notorious for morphing into whatever they think their particular partner at that time wants them to be and totally self abandoning their own feelings. When a breakup occurs, anxious preoccupieds are often overwhelmed with fear and anxiety. They may desperately try to salvage and repair the relationship, even if it's no longer healthy, just simply because they cannot stand the idea of being alone. So, what does the AP's post breakup timeline look like? So, the first step in the timeline is immediate reaction, which is within the first 2 weeks. So, they experience intense emotions, oftentimes seeking immediate reassurance from their super fresh ex and expressing a strong desire to reconcile. The anxiety they feel in response to their triggered attachment wound of abandonment is in the red zone and feels unbearable. APs will send text after text after text, or call their ex from an unknown number and hang up, or stalk them on their socials. And this behavior is even more prevalent when they were not the instigator of the breakup. The next phase in the timeline is called the short term adjustment, which typically happens between the 2 week and 2 month post breakup period. In this phase, APs typically struggle with overanalyzing the relationship. The longing for their ex intensifies as they yearn for the emotional connection they once had. They may grapple with nostalgia and heightened emotions, or even long term anxiety and depression. They may start seeking closure, reconciliation, or try gaining an understanding of what went wrong. Although their emotions are stronger than the other attachment styles at first, they tend to also cycle through them faster than dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance. Now, the final phase in the timeline is called long term adaptation. So, 2-ish months post breakup and beyond. Over time, as self awareness deepens, APs learn to better cope with or manage their anxieties. This is essentially when acceptance that the breakup is for real finally sets in, and the yearning that they had for their ex starts to transform into a desire for healthier connections. Okay, if you're an AP, you will more than likely struggle with the intense emotions that come with a breakup, like fear of abandonment or overwhelming sadness. Instead of trying to fix things with your ex right away or seek constant reassurance from them, focus on building your own emotional strength. Give yourself time and space to process your feelings and try to resist the urge to chase your ex for closure. Spend time focusing on your needs, as you were probably self abandoning throughout most of the relationship. Actual self care is key. Surround yourself with people you love. Do things that are healing for your mind, heart, body, and soul. And if you don't have a counselor, there is no better time than post breakup to start seeing one. Now, if your ex is an anxious preoccupied, here's what you can expect. They very likely will reach out repeatedly, seek reassurance, and try to get back together with you. If getting back together is not on your bingo card, be clear with your boundaries and communicate kindly but firmly that the relationship is over. It's important to be compassionate, but don't give them false hope or encourage behavior that delays their healing. They also need to focus on self care and support from friends or family rather than trying to reconcile with you. So, encouraging them to do that is the right thing for both of you. As Brene Brown famously says, clear is kind. It might crush them in the moment, but ultimately, you clearly and kindly communicating reality to them is what's best. All right, let's chat about our dismissive avoidance. As you'll recall, our DA's main attachment wound is that they feel defective due to the emotional neglect they experienced as a child. As a result, they struggle big time with emotional intimacy and tend to keep their partners at arm's length in order to protect themselves from showing vulnerability. When they are faced with conflict, especially during a breakup, they withdraw both emotionally and physically. Dismissive avoidants notoriously have trouble expressing their feelings during a relationship, so finally opening up about their feelings in a healthy, honest way is definitely a no go when breakup time rolls around. They are also oftentimes known for discarding their partners out of seemingly nowhere. So, what does the DA's post breakup timeline look like? So, their immediate reaction is absolute relief. Because they struggle to express anything on an emotional level, they actually build resentment up towards their partner throughout the relationship. So, by the time the breakup happens, they are flooded with sheer relief. The perceived pressures of being in a relationship are no longer there. They typically downplay the breakup both internally and with others, and really relish in their independence. The timeline of this phase can vary anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, and depending on how long this phase lasts, obviously then goes on to play into the timeline of the next phases that follow. During the next phase, which is their short term adjustment, DAs typically struggle with acknowledging and processing their emotions. The initial relief they felt and dismissal of their feelings start to evolve into a subtle yearning for the familiarity of the past relationship as they begin to allow themselves to feel the pain of the breakup more fully. The next stage is the quote unquote missing their ex phase. Around this time frame, dismissive avoidants typically really start to find themselves missing the comfort and safety of their ex. They begin to reflect on the emotional connection they had, which then fosters a deeper understanding of the emotions that they actually had for that person while they were in the relationship. The fears of their independence and autonomy being stripped from them that they felt during the relationship honestly becomes almost forgotten. Totally dissolved into the past, as they are now left with positive memories from the connection they had with their partner. DAs are notorious for popping back into their ex's lives totally unexpectedly when they finally hit this phase in the post breakup timeline. They often attempt to reconnect because they miss the validation that they once received from their ex. Over time, if they embrace self reflection and personal growth, dismissive avoidance can gain the ability to acknowledge and express their true emotions, both positive and negative, over the breakup. They hopefully transform their pain into a more nuanced understanding of their emotional needs. Okay, if you're a DA, you more than likely will totally withdraw or shut down emotionally during a breakup. While it may be your natural response, try to give yourself permission to process your emotions instead of avoiding them. This is both important for you and the person on the other side of the breakup. Acknowledging your feelings, even though it's going to be uncomfortable, is so important. Talking to a trusted friend or journaling about your thoughts can help you better understand what's going on emotionally. Working on opening up and communicating your feelings, even in small ways, can lead to healthier relationships in the future. DAs tend to bury themselves in work or hobbies or really anything to distract themselves from actually feeling and properly processing their emotions. But trust me, This is only doing yourself more harm in the long run. Your emotions are in there. Believe me, they are. They're just really hard to find, express, and process. But if you keep going from shallow relationship to shallow relationship, you're eventually going to hit a wall. This is the attachment style that is actually the most susceptible to experiencing a midlife crisis or cheating on their partner. So, recognizing and getting help for healing this attachment style is extremely crucial to true contentment with self and experiencing meaningful, fulfilling relationships with others. Now, if your ex is a dismissive avoidant, here's what you can expect. They'll react to the breakup by withdrawing and by being emotionally distant. They might avoid discussing the breakup or may not express much emotion. And while it may seem like they don't care, it's often just a defense mechanism. Don't take their emotional distance personally. Give them the space they need, but also be clear about your own boundaries and needs. Avoid pressuring them to open up and allow them time to process the situation in their own way. From my personal experience, it may seem as though they aren't bothered by the breakup, totally nonchalant and matter of fact about things. It's going to hurt like hell. But the truth is, they do care. They just simply don't have the ability to show emotional vulnerability, as being weak and defective is their biggest attachment wound. They also don't like to be perceived as the bad guy or girl, so they often try to soften the blow of a breakup by offering friendship or saying really, really confusing things like, I will always love you. Just try to keep in mind, it's a capacity issue on their end. But deep down, they often feel immense shame and sadness that they just don't have the ability to express. Alrighty, now for my fellow fearful avoidants. As you'll recall, FA's main attachment wound is the fear of betrayal due to the childhood trauma they experienced from their parents or primary caregivers. As a result, FAs tend to have difficulty trusting others, causing them to experience a mix of both anxious and avoidant behaviors, which often give off the classic fearful avoidant hot and cold pattern. When a breakup happens, fearful avoidants often feel emotionally chaotic and unpredictable. They may desperately want their partner back, but also fear the closeness that comes with a relationship. If they allow themselves to get close again, they can get hurt again, which just further pours salt into their betrayal wound. Remember me saying that fearful avoidants are the most complex insecure attachment style? Their typical response and array of emotions they experience during and after a breakup are definitely no different. Y'all, it's exhausting being an FA. Thank God I'm in my healing era. So, what does the FA's post breakup timeline look like? In the immediate reaction phase, which is typically within the first couple of weeks, fearful avoidants experience intense emotional highs and lows, torn between their desire for closeness and their fear of vulnerability. They oscillate between wanting to seek connection with their ex and withdrawing from their ex. They often crave closeness, but then may push away their partner when it's actually offered. Depending on which side of the attachment spectrum the FA leans, either anxious or dismissive, this will, of course, affect their response to the breakup as well. Like dismissive avoidance, there can be an initial feeling of relief right after the split due to their newfound freedom. These feelings also compete with the pain of the breakup, as well as the initial numbing they may experience. Next, during the short term adjustment phase, which is usually within the 2 week to 2 month ish timeline, FAs really grapple with finding a balance between intimacy and self protection. Their internal conflict intensifies as they start to miss the emotional connection they had with their ex. Their mind may ruminate on the past and they can ping pong back and forth between seemingly contradictory emotions. All right, next, during the missing their ex phase in the timeline, which is typically within the 2 to 4 month post breakup time span, the yearning for their ex really deepens. Fearful avoidants reflect on the shared vulnerabilities or remember the good parts about their ex and often struggle with the sense of loss and longing for the emotional connection they once had with their partner. And once they finally cross the line into the long term adaptation phase, which is roughly at the 4 month mark and beyond, FAs begin to develop strategies to manage their conflicting desires as they've had some solid time to self reflect. The yearning for the lost relationship actually becomes a catalyst for understanding how they could have negatively contributed to the relationship and then search for self growth. All right, if you are an FA, like me, breakups can be particularly confusing and painful, as you may experience both a desire for closeness while simultaneously fearing it. After a breakup, it's crucial to give yourself time to reflect and heal. Seeking out professional help can be a total game changer. Your therapist can help you process the emotional confusion and work through your insecure attachment issues with you. Practicing grounding techniques like mindfulness and meditation can significantly help you manage the emotional roller coaster that is so hard to get off of. For me personally, having a continuous conversation with God and practicing gratitude daily is extremely important too. Pour into things that give you a sense of life and purpose. Take time to focus on building up a sense of emotional security within yourself before pursuing another relationship. Now, if your ex is a fearful avoidant, here's what you can expect. Their reaction to the breakup may feel unpredictable, swinging between wanting to stay connected and pushing you away. Try to be patient and compassionate, as they are more than likely struggling with big time conflicting emotions. If getting back together is not something that you're interested in, set clear boundaries while also acknowledging their conflicting emotions. Encourage them to embrace their support system to help them understand and process their attachment patterns. Be careful to not get caught up in their emotional drama and give them the time that they need to heal. Lastly, for the attachment style that we all aspire to be, are securely attached peeps. As you will recall, securely attached individuals experienced consistent physical presence and emotional attunement from their parents or primary caregivers in childhood, which led to their ability to express their feelings and emotional needs in a healthy, secure manner. Because of this, they tend to experience healthy and balanced relationships in adulthood. They're comfortable with emotional closeness while also maintaining a healthy level of independence and are typically good at managing conflict in a calm and constructive way. During a breakup, someone with a secure attachment style is likely to approach the situation with maturity. They can acknowledge their feelings of sadness, grief, or disappointment, but are also able to process the end of the relationship with a sense of closure. They are also likely to communicate openly and with respect without big displays of anger or withdrawal. So, what do our securely attached peeps post breakup timelines look like? Within the first couple weeks, which again is the immediate reaction phase, secure individuals are able to embrace a balanced perspective. They certainly experience a normal, healthy level of sadness, but they tend to really lean on their support system during this time. Their emotional intelligence allows them to process the breakup with a healthy level of acceptance. During their short term adjustment phase, which is 2 weeks to 2 months, they continue this process of introspection and really utilize the breakup as a catalyst for personal growth. They may explore new connections cautiously while maintaining a strong sense of self worth. Next, during their missing their ex phase, which generally happens during the first 1 to 2 months post breakup, secure individuals may start to miss the companionship and shared experiences that are no longer there with their previous partner. While they continue to embrace their own personal growth, they also reflect on the positive aspects and memories of the past relationship. And finally, when they reach the long term adaptation phase of the post breakup timeline, which is generally around 2 months and beyond, secures evolve with resilience, appreciating the lessons learned as they reflect back on all the different aspects of the relationship. As they adapt, they may start to genuinely miss the positive aspects of the relationship, acknowledging their capacity for genuine connection. They're skilled at being able to have both positive and negative takeaways from the relationship and the breakup, develop a better sense of self, and have an improved sense of what they want and don't want in a partner moving forward, based on everything they were able to learn from that relationship. Alrighty, if you are one of our securely attached friends, who we are all super happy for, but also slightly envious of, you're probably able to handle breakups in a healthy, emotionally balanced way. You more than likely experience sadness, but you can process it and move on with time. Continue to practice self care and give yourself the space that you need to heal. Of all the attachment styles, you're the most likely to have the ability to keep the door open for a platonic connection with your ex in the future, if and when you feel ready. But also, if you don't want to, that's totally okay too. I'm personally not one to stay friends or maintain any connection at all with exes, but hey, if that's your jam, you do you, boo. Now, if your ex is securely attached, here's what you can expect. They will likely handle the breakup with maturity and respect. They may need space to heal, but they will probably process the breakup in a healthy way. Respect their boundaries and give them space. Also, keep in mind that they are likely to move on and may not want to remain in constant contact after the breakup. For some people, this is very painful and difficult to come to terms with, so definitely just be aware of this. Guys, understanding your attachment style or your exes can significantly help you understand and navigate relationship conflicts more effectively, especially during a breakup. As a healing, fearful avoidant myself that is still working through the ups and downs of my breakup that happened in July, this is pretty personal and still very painful at times for me. There are countless reasons why that I won't go into right now, but my most recent breakup has definitely been the one that's rocked me the most. Like I mentioned in my debut episode of the Attachment Confessions, if I hadn't discovered attachment science, I would 1000% be in a totally different headspace and heart space after this breakup than what I am in right now. Don't get me wrong, it has still been extremely hard. I had zero doubts in my mind that he was the person I was meant to be with forever. When I finally allowed myself to accept that we were not on the same page with our relationship, my heart was literally shattered in my chest. You do not understand the profound impact learning about attachment has had on my healing from that breakup. I cannot stress it enough, which is why I'm here doing this podcast. I want this information to be able to help as many people as possible, just like it has monumentally impacted and helped me. Starting all over again at 37 is terrifying. I've never been the type of person that needs to be in a relationship, but the older I get, the scarier it feels, wondering if I'll ever find my forever person. I don't think God gave me the bleeding heart that He did for me to go through this life without a companion, though. And I'm going to take this time that I have post breakup to grow into the best possible version of myself, focusing on healing my attachment, and quite honestly, taking advantage of the many upsides that there are to being single while I can is what this season in my life is for. I want someone who is going to genuinely love, honor, respect, and treasure my heart. No one will do that though if I don't model it within myself first. And the way for me and you to get there is by healing our insecure attachment. By recognizing the attachment styles that are at play, we can handle breakups more mindfully, set healthy boundaries, and promote emotional healing in a way that compassionately honors and acknowledges both ourselves and our former partner. Breakups are horrendous, y'all, but hopefully this episode helped shed some light on how each of us can better handle them. God forbid we must endure them again. All right, guys, that does it for today's episode. Thank you times a bazillion for joining me. I hope this was helpful for you. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday for lucky episode number 7. In the meantime, if you could just take a sec to subscribe to the Attachment Confessions and give a rating and review, I would be so, so grateful. Those little gestures that take a few seconds really do make a big difference in pushing this podcast out to others that could really benefit from listening and learning about attachment. The algorithms are fun like that. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow the pod on Instagram at The Attachment Confessions. I'll be putting more content on there soon, including polls for you guys to participate in, so be sure to join other members of your Confessions fam there. I'll see you guys same time, same place, right here on the Attachment Confessions next week. Love you guys. Bye.